system. I'm Rob Willcox from Smartlife. We are a home automation company that's been doing this sort of thing for probably 20 years. So what I wanted to cover today, we'll use the context of our own product, but we'll just give you an overview of where we see the smart home system going and what we're trying to do to help with that journey. So we come from a background of doing, now that screen has not been shared anymore, is that correct?
I can see that. I can see the smart home market.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Thank you. All right. Generally speaking, these systems are focusing on the top 2%. So mansions, super yachts, and that's where my background comes from, setting up systems for super yachts, luxury homes. And the other thing that's happened over the years is that there's now a whole lot of smart devices available, but they require the end user to generally enroll and configure the products and set up the logic and things like that, which they also don't tend to encompass a very full spectrum. So the net result is you end up with what we call a sea of apps. They're hard to share, and in some ways we call that a dumb smart home. And kind of the more you add, the more frustration people have. So our vision has been to try to link these things together in a more cost-effective way and make it actually a truly volume smart home. So, trying to bring something that can be deployed at scale, having multiple locations. So generally people have often got a home or in a workplace, maybe a holiday home, and then bringing everything into one app in an affordable way. So why is that? One app I think is easier to use and share. It simplifies the hardware selection if you're trying to get into a compatible system, and being able to connect everybody and related to a property, the builder, the tradespeople, the family, the guests, so that everyone has the appropriate level of access. We've to just add in things like maintenance schedules and to-do lists and things like that, so that the app becomes a centre for everything to do with that location. Things like when you leave the home or changing from winter to summer mode, there's often lists associated with that and maintenance. I guess in order to cover that spectrum of product from high to low, it's important to, at the end of the day, cover both the consumer grade products and the professional grade products, because there's different levels of affordability and requirements really. Like here's a $200 a ring type doorbell, and there's a $2,000 stainless keypad intercom system. So similarly, there's different products that have similar functions, but there does need to be horses for courses. Being able to configure these things remotely is really important, we feel. So both the top-end systems tend to have a person that goes to site and configures them and writes it to a controller, and the DIY products tend to need to expect that the homeowner is going to do everything. Now, I think most people enrolling the product into an app and having it be able to turn on and off, let's say 80–90% of people can do that, but setting up all the logic to really get the benefit out of it might only be 20 or 30% that have the inclination or time or skills to do that. And then linking everything in the house together, it might only be down to that sort of 2 or 3 to 5% again, which is not ideal. So being able to work remotely, what we've done ourselves to counter that is to use a web app that different people can utilise simultaneously if necessary to adjust the logic and settings and things. As we mentioned briefly earlier, you might have the owner might have access to everything, but a guest or cleaner or a tradesperson might need a more limited access. So, I think that's an important feature to look out for in a system, is where you can have the same basic platform with different user views. Smart home logic really makes all of the benefits come together. And we've set that up so that a homeowner can edit the scenes, but the the main systems can be deployed in a like you can have an electrician bring something in, do some logic, and a advanced technician remotely adding things in when they need to as well. So being able to deploy this type of solution at scale is around having a template system. And so that's allowed us to take something that can be really complicated. Even our care system, which has only got a few sensors in it, can have lots and lots of code of logic to make it effective for the family and carers. And similarly, the smart home systems. So we've templated all that up so that it can be deployed very, very rapidly. It's the labour that can be a really expensive part of a smart home system. Looking at some of the things that people like to integrate into a property. So firstly, there's the alarm, being able to set and unset it from anywhere. If it is activated, what zones are activated. Probably important to note that you don't have to use sirens. So we set it up so that the lighting and the speakers and the voice assistants can be used to deter the burglar, who is in fact expecting the siren. A lot of people don't set their alarms because they don't want the siren to annoy the neighbours or the pets, or just purely that it's stressful when you're using the alarm yourself. So that's quite a cool feature. We utilise the motion sensors from the alarm to help with things like recognising that the room's not occupied, turning off air conditioning and lighting and that type of thing. The other thing is, what do you do when the alarm goes off? So we actually send the notification out to a group of people, and then they can chat inside, just me, false alarm, or hey, could you check? And it can optionally be escalated to another, like a call centre, only when required. In terms of access control, then setting that up to be only sharing access through the app so that you're not sharing out alarm codes. We can use Alarm NZ or so that kind of pretty old style way of the message going out and somebody calling back. It's good to have that only when you can't respond to it yourself rather than every time. Lighting has become very affordable to control. So these little necks can be smart necks that go behind the switch, or in this case here, there's a little electrical device called a puck. And just a standard switch plugs into that, which plugs into the light. In terms of lighting, why would you want it, sort of thing? It's not just about turning it in the room. I think a key part of it is turning all the lights on in a burglary or fire. Really cool being able to turn all the lights off when you leave. When you arrive home, having a scene that lights up the outside and inside in a nice way. Turning lights off when no one's in the room, creating the lived-in look, and particularly in a house where there's a lot of lighting circuits, being able to push one button or say a voice command and setting up multiple lights in one go is really cool. So that really makes the most of the lighting design. You can end up with the worst thing is having a sea of buttons on the wall and you're sort of stabbing away trying to work out which one is that to get the lighting effect that you want. So, for example, going from cooking to dining, one button and kitchen lights all dim down to just an aesthetic look, and the dining comes up. It's really cool. Saving energy as well. Motorised blinds, again, all open in a burglary or fire, optionally close when you leave, or perhaps more to the point, being able to manage the thermal side of things to either keep the heat out or retain the heat in. A lot of people like to have the heat pumps operating remotely, but it's much more efficient if you can close the blinds to ensure that heat's not just being dissipated out the window. HVAC, heat pump control. Funny enough, the Wi-Fi heat pump that comes from the manufacturer is only able to be standalone. So there's a product that you can use. It's either a little IR flasher for retrofit, that little puck that can control the system integrated, or we'll come to another module later on, but at the end of the day, controlling the HVAC from the integrated system, either from the remote or just because you've left work or that type of thing, is important as well. And making sure that the two systems aren't competing. So quite often you've got a situation where the HVAC system might be on auto and actually trying to cool the house. Meanwhile, the underfloor heating has been set to warm the floor and effectively warming the house. So that's good to have that as under an integrated system. We focus a lot on green mode. With your hydronic underfloor heating, you can actually preheat that outside the peak hours, and that really does do a lot to minimising the greenhouse gases caused from peak loads. And we're working on the demand side control to allow there to be some control through to the energy companies from these types of variable loads. The tower warmers, they only need to be run about 4 or 5 hours a day, plus or minus into a summer, and making sure that they run where possible outside scheduled times and just on when they need to be for actual usage. EV, so we do a lot of work around on apartment buildings particularly. You need to load balance, and even on a particularly single phase house, to make sure that you don't exceed the capacity of the building. So it can become quite a complex scenario. It's one of the areas where we're utilising the AI ML side of things to know how much energy a EV is likely to actually require. Some of them we can read it back, some of them we can't. What's the last thing people with an EV generally want is to be charging up their EV from coal, but last winter, I think we burnt 3 million tonnes of Indonesian coal. So it's crazy. You come home at 5 o'clock and you're literally charging your EV from coal. So being able to charge it either from off-peak times, excess solar when it's available, but of course being able to override when you need that fast charge are all some of the key things that we've integrated in, and there's various systems around that can do that type of function. Even without solar or batteries, it's actually really useful to just be monitoring the building usage, and again minimising those peak loads. Your hot water cylinder and pools and things like that don't need to be run over peak times. So some simple basic control is a really good investment for helping with our problems there. If you do have solar and batteries, rather than feeding the energy back to the grid at 6 or 7 cents a kilowatt and then paying 25 cents an hour, say later, you're better off to detect when the building's generating more than it's consuming, and then use that energy yourself to preheat or pre-cool, for example. If you do have batteries, you can what they call peak shave, where you're drawing down from your battery bank over that peak time. Bringing the entertainment into one system is also really nice. I mean, these days the TVs can be art, they can be used to share family photos. We love that part of the system. Being able to have the same image on different TVs at the same time can be really good for sort of rugby mode or sports, and being able to enjoy music throughout the property. Making it convenient, so saying Alexa turn on Sky Sport 1 or Alexa turn on movie mode is a really, really fun way to enjoy the entertainment. I think people are wanting to entertain at home, but making it sort of simple to use is a key part of the enjoyment of making it an enjoyable experience for people. So doing it nicely from an aesthetic point of view, having just the TV cleanly mounted on the wall, might be a frame TV, drop down screens if you've got a view that having a big 65-inch TV with the picture off and the view is not very aesthetic. Making it really easy to share content, play video around the house. We're looking at some of the products now. So there's standalone apps that can do a lot of these functions, but I guess we've just focused on trying to take the range of products and bring them into being able to be pulled into the one system. So Windsor, the Kiwi company there, doing well with locks. We help them to create their smart home app, and that's compatible, of course, with our system as well. It can be standalone. Assa Abloy, big player in the market that does require the Z-Wave interface. So we'll come to it in a minute, but our hub can either be an extra board inside an alarm panel or this blue box, but that's required if you're using the Z-Wave to talk to the Assa Abloy. And in addition to digital door locks, you can have a discrete electric lock in the door frame called a door strike, or mag locks for things like gates, and also do motorised gates. So, for the alarm system, and we've already touched on that earlier, but, the wired option can have the motion detectors coming back to the alarm panel, the keypad, smoke detectors. So really cool having them built in, so you never need to change the batteries. And then the cameras as well, linking that all together. The motion detectors can be used for not just security, but also occupancy detection and lighting as well. This is one of the Schneider, which is one of the huge brands, is using a compatible system now. So those little smart necks can be swapped out if you've already got this brand of switch, or purchased from new, and they link into the ZB gateway, either on, off, or dimmable, push and hold to dim, available. For the HPM, the Legrand HPM types of necks, there's the brilliant smart necks fit in there. You can also get a glass switch, coloured switch, and the ceiling panel lights for commercial, working on the Bluetooth mesh system. So there's different protocols have different benefits, but it's like these ones here, you will end up, you can only have about 60 or 70 Wi-Fi devices in a house. So if you can do a lot of lighting, it's good to use the Bluetooth, and that's only counting as one thing on your Wi-Fi, but you can have up to hundreds of lights. The Z-Wave technology doesn't go through the cloud, so it's super fast to operate, and that has a little electrical puck with the momentary thing plugging into it. This company, Intersys, allows us to interface to most of the main brands of HVAC system. So again, it's just great having that turn off when you leave, turn on when you leave work if you want, or just having it keeping the temperature within a reasonable bounds, but still minimising on energy. TVs and source equipment get controlled from the little blue hub if you want to do that, and you can control it either from your app or voice within that standard offering. So a whole lot of products just need to get controlled from the network. So there's surround sound amplifiers. They're used to create that movie type experience. So you have 3 front speakers, a left and a right and a centre, and at least 2 rear speakers. You can have many more, and generally a subwoofer, and that creates that really amazing movie effect. In other rooms around the house, you can have this amplifier will do 4 pairs of speakers, and that one will do 6 pairs of speakers. So you can have like the kitchen and the garden, other rooms of the house as well. And we just play Spotify generally to this, but using the speakers for the TV sound as well is really, really great, because the TVs don't have great sound built into them. Video switches, so that's where you can have the same image being displayed on multiple TVs, great for rugby mode or movie mode. You can, of course, have different things displayed as well. And things like the camera NVR, we display that on all the TVs if there's been a burglary activation as part of the process for trying to deter the thief to go. These days, with this technologies that are there, we can actually do a lot wirelessly. So we have wireless motion detectors. We've found some nice ones that have good battery life, but look like a standard security detector, door sensors, panic pendants, human presence detectors as opposed to motion, temperature, humidity, flood, CO2 sensors can be really useful for people wanting to make sure that bedrooms are kept at the right temperature, healthy homes, this type of thing. There's, wired cameras are best where possible, but there's some great options available now for indoor wireless cameras. We can set these up so that they can be, any of our internal cameras can be physically depowered unless the alarm's set. A lot of people don't like inside cameras, but it's great for a burglary. Arlo type outdoor camera that's battery powered, easily retrofittable. This one here just plugs into wherever your sensor light is, and it has a Wi-Fi camera as well as being able to be turned on from your phone or voice or other means as well as the motion. Even 4G options. We can control some Wi-Fi heat pumps with the smarts built into them, or you just use this little controller here, placed in line of sight to the heat pump. Being able to measure the temperature and humidity in other parts of the room can make us much better control. And there's Wi-Fi panel heaters available now too that are compatible. Motorised blinds and curtains we've talked about, available on wired and wireless. We built a family care system to create an alert if there's no motion in the kitchen, say between 6 and 9 a.m, and the old panic buttons as well. So we can also do appliances, smart kettles, smart vacuum cleaners. They can be programmed to only come on when the alarm's set, so the house is unoccupied, so you're not tripping over them quite as much. Electric blankets and fans. We're just doing an interface to the smart things at the moment. So that's kind of a range of the product that we're doing, is sort of really trying to get down that triangle into that higher volume solution, but still giving that integrated result. What I'll do is just look at some of the products that we utilise in those larger projects with complex electrical requirements. So KNX is our preferred choice. It's an international standard with hundreds of manufacturers and thousands of products. So it can do lighting, blinds, heating, a very robust bus-based system. So your switches are really cool because, a couple of things there. In a more complicated house, you can just run a wire right around the room in the areas where you're not quite sure where you want to switch. Often you don't know what you need that switch to do, and you have it on your phones and motion detectors as well, but it's good to have some switch functionality, but you don't want to have a whole sea of switches, wall acne they call it. You've got a switch for the lights, another one for the HVAC system, another one for the underfloor heating, another one for the blinds. It gets really hard to use and not very user friendly. So bringing that all together into one user friendly walk up switch is cool. And then wiring wise, the blinds, motorised windows, underfloor heating, pool pumps, lighting dimmers, etc., all get run back to the little modules that are centrally mounted. And this is more like a bus cable. When you're using that type of technology, it's good to use it for the HVAC as well. It's a closed loop. This is controlling that system. And there's products specially designed for hydronic underfloor heating. So you're saving the cost of those manual systems, and you can make a much smarter integrated result. Optionally, on the CCTV side of things, apart from just standard camera recording, this technology here from Sighthound that we like to use, it enables the system, if you like, to differentiate between people, vehicles and animals, and it can just save a lot of time when you're going back through days or even as it says years of video. You can just pick up the things that you're actually looking for. People still like to have remote controls and minimal touchscreens, but the budget of those that cost does go up considerably, but we've used the RTI system as a hybrid model. So we have one of our controllers, one of their controllers. We use the app on the phones, and any product can talk to any system. So makes it still really flexible to use. A lot of nice options in remote controls, and in wall and on bench touch screens. So that way we can kind of offer these systems from basic to complex without having, you don't want to be, I guess one of the challenges these days, if you go into a retailer and you buy everything, we counted if you bought everything in Noel Leemings, you'd have about 8 different apps. And if you want to try and integrate everything together, a lot of the time you're having to start again, whereas it's important to us to build a system where you could have the same basic platform going right the way through. So that's a little bit of a quick overview to smart home systems that we've been developing over the last 5 years particularly, but we've been doing this for about 20 years. So, yeah. Open the floor to any questions. So the products that can support the high end, they're all great products, but just to give you a bit of an idea of price and where that sits in the market, the Questrons, Savants, Control 4s, those types of things, yeah, the integrator's probably paying somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 for the controller, but it's the labour to program it that really becomes a bit of a barrier there. Those systems tend to be not cloud-based, so someone's got to drive to site to do the programming. And so it's a bit like using PowerPoint. You've got to operate the entire system with one user, as you do with the RTI that we were showing there before. The objective here is that you can package up some of that logic that's the time-consuming elements, and then we can deliver that very quickly to allow that more cost-effective result. Kind of like we really try to look at how do we do that sort of production line mentality. It's a big task. We've done products for international before, but we've had up to 50 people working on this over many years. So that's a bit about our story, I guess. But yeah, and then as I say, at the bottom end of the market, there is some standards coming together slowly. There's technically wise, there's Z-Wave, Zigbee, and Wi-Fi, and the other one for rural and long range is LoRaWAN. So all of those technologies have different pros and cons, and just I guess selecting something that is the best for the environment is perhaps a bit of the art of it as well. But yeah, we've been adding in LoRaWAN products which provide up to 10 kilometre range with but very small amounts of data. So just measuring a temperature or controlling a pump a long way away is very practical use of that. Whereas things like cameras and stuff need that high bandwidth Wi-Fi. We haven't talking about that. I guess internet. It's very important to have good internet. So the pipeline to the house would recommend being as good as possible. Fibre, if it's at all possible. And then, that last bit of Wi-Fi. So hardwiring all of the products that don't move, the TVs and the source equipment and cameras and things like that are high bandwidth. Saving that Wi-Fi for the tablets and laptops and portable products is definitely recommended. There's a number of good options these days for getting Wi-Fi, particularly in a bigger house. One system won't be enough to get good coverage, so there's a wired option with the unified little discs that we can use, and then there's also Google and other companies have made a little mesh system to get that good Wi-Fi. But as we say, it's sort of the road you drive on. If you have a poor internet and or Wi-Fi, doesn't matter how good the car is, it's going to be a bad experience if it's got a really potholed road. So good internet is really important. So with the some of the things that we're working on next is firstly taking the best of this technology and using it for the family care. So we've been a modular system. We start off with a few $100s with a motion detector and a couple of motion detectors and a panic button, and we generate alerts of there's no motion, because I guess the worst thing is somebody's had a fall and they no one knows, and they're stuck there. So at least every 12 hours you'll get a notification of no motion with our system there. There is the panic pendants, but people tend to either not be able to or not remember to push them, but we offer those as well. But I guess going beyond that, being able to particularly for dementia, blind and low vision, people wanting to stay living on longer in their own home, we can do some really basic things to help them with control the TV, Alexa, turn on TV1, that kind of thing, and just some simple buttons as well to turn things on. What I do with my mum is I can, during the news hour, we can pause the TV remotely, switch it over just using that low-cost $150 Facebook portal. So we've got a life-size video conference happening between the two homes. Fantastic, particularly over COVID. And then at the end of that conversation, I can switch the TV back to the TV and just resume. So makes it very, very user-friendly for both sides. And just those sorts of little things can be really transformational for people's lives. Controlling the heat pumps, people often battle with the heat in the cold mode, and just remembering to operate it correctly. So automating that is really cool. And then you get into, of course, depending upon the need, all of those things like motorising the blinds, having the lights coming on for you automatically, being able to see who's at the door safely. That was built for home automation is really helpful for people that are aging in place or have sight or other disabilities. We talked a little bit about the energy before and what we're doing with some basic EV charging techniques. We also now we've got a little small investor and a key guy who's a doctor in AIML, and we're now adding that into the platform, so that it probably sounds, can sound scary, that sort of stuff, but it's really just analysing the data and analysing what's happening to, I describe it to people to do what somebody that was totally focused, a smart person would do, that was totally focused on that goal. So it might be that you're thinking of, when do I need to actually turn the EV on? Because putting it on a 9 p.m. time clock is not necessarily helping. It's just creating a second peak. When do we need to have it on? How much do we actually have to have it charged tomorrow? If to minimise that, particularly say to minimise the greenhouse gases, it's frustrating to us that it's not talked about more. But smarter control is actually one of the biggest things that we could do very quickly to solve to reduce some of those issues. The energy companies have to run a huge surplus of generation to stop that situation, like in Wellington last winter, where there was a power outage. So the AIML applied both on a location and at a wider scale is a really great way to solve some of those energy use issues. And as we have more and more energy from renewables, clouds go over solar panels, wind stops blowing, and that can create a real need to immediately reduce the electrical loads. So energy and care are some key focuses for us, as well as our basic offering to homes, commercial and farms. So sorry, I probably gave a lot of information in a short time here. Hopefully it was useful, but please do feel free to put any comments in the chat, or have a browse through our information that we've got on the different websites around what we do and how we do it. We like to be really open and cooperate. if anyone's got any questions, just hang out. We have two kind of different websites depending upon what you're interested in. Smartlife.nz is focused on what we offer in New Zealand. We've actually set up 6 technology showrooms as a place where people can go and actually experience what this is all about, and try to experience it in action, because often it's, the words are not enough to really understand it. And those are available. It's one in Whangarei, one in Tauranga, a couple in Auckland, and Palmerston North and Nelson so far. And the Smartlife Labs is more about the part of our business that's developed the platform, and how we're aiming to roll that out in partnership with some of the sort of telcos and the larger companies in New Zealand to bring this technology out of that 1 or 2% and out of the frustrations of the DIY to wider markets. So.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. Just wondering, you were talking about labour being one of the most expensive components of installing this sort of system, right?
Yep.
So is there much of a shortage of skilled labour in this area? When you recruit staff to do this, do you need electricians or?
It's a good question. We aim to partner with the electricians as much as possible. They are unfortunately really booked out and flat out at the moment. So we do now have some electrical capability on staff. We like to work in with the electrician.
But you don't necessarily need a electrician background if you were looking to
get involved with this. No, that's right. So only one of our 30-odd staff is an electrician at the moment. So the process can vary depending upon what sort of, budget a project really. It's a bit like, is it an architectural experience or a group build experience, or more like an RV experience kind of thing with a boxed package. So with our showrooms, then people, typically the process is people come in, have a look, see what it's all about. It's a combination of people knowing what's possible and then also recommending. So that's a sort of design and sales function, I guess, where we're demonstrating and then taking, if it's a new build, we take the plans. If it's an existing building, we like to go and visit. And then you can see what's sort of needed and what fits in the budget, and come up with a plan. So we mark up the plans, create pricing and a bit of a roadmap. So sometimes it's, hey, I'll do this now and provide for that later, and that type of thing. But yeah, we provide we're a member of CEDIA, which is a Custom Electronic Design Industry Association, and we trying to promote that. It's an international organisation as part of the training, but we do a lot of in-house training, and we, with the electricians being so busy, we do offer them that they can sort of be a referral, and then we work with them on site on their projects to get them up to speed with the sorts of things. Our mantra is always to the electricians and the security guys, etc., but we'll do whatever you don't want to do. So typically we do the programming and commissioning and the more complex AV side of things, and we're encouraging people to put in the smart lighting and compatible smart products so that the end user gets a really great experience. Is that the question?
Yeah. Where is your office?
We've got one in Holder Place in Albany, where I am at the moment, which is just beside Hunting and Fishing, same building as Hunting and Fishing, opposite Bunnings, just off Constellation Drive, and one Holder Place. And then we do have a large display in the Home Idea Centre that's not always manned. So that's in the Strand and Parnell. And those are the two in Auckland. Is that what you meant? Are you in Auckland? Or?
Yeah, are you only Auckland?
What's that, sorry?
Are you only in Auckland?
No, sorry, we've got one in Whangarei, one in Whangarei, one in Tauranga, in Cameron Street, one in Nelson, one in Manawatu, and that's all we've set up so far.
How long have you been established?
About five years since we set it up between Smartlife, made the difference between, sort of rebranded into Smartlife and created the Smartlife Labs as the technology company and Smartlife as the master franchise type company. Yeah, but most of the team here have been working on this for in this industry for 10 or 20 years type thing. So really great experienced team.
Cool.
There's if you're in that high end budget, there's other companies out there that are doing that sort of top end, and they'll be using either Crestron or Control 4 or whatever. We do the same sort of result at that high end, but I think in the mid to there's really not a lot of other products that can deliver the integration. If you're only integrating a few things, then you don't necessarily need a fully integratable system. I mean, if you're just wanting to do the heat pump, the one that comes with the manufacturer is fine. But if you want to grow,
but your system brings everything together. That's what I'm getting. You've got all
exactly
these elements that are all optional, variable, but can be all pulled together under the software in your program. Yeah.
Exactly that. So you want to end up with a single system that can tie everything together. That's really cool.
Yeah, and if you had solar and EV, you could control that. You were talking about that before. You could control how that energy is being stored in your EV before it gets used in your house.
Right at the moment, there's so the concept of being able to utilise the energy that's in the vehicle is on VTG, or vehicle to grid. So that's not yet authorised or legal within New Zealand. The Teslas have prepared for it, and the iconic there's one vehicle around that you can adapt with a plug. You plug it into the EV charging socket, and you get a 3-pin caravan style plug. But that's still sort of coming. But preparing the building for that, if it's a new build, is important to have the physical cable in there between the EV location and the switchboard. At the moment, we can manage things across the solar system with or without a house battery. And also, so if you're getting energy from the sun, you can divert that to so that your EV is charging based upon that surplus energy. You can't turn it on and off too rapidly, but you can definitely improve the process so that you're where possible charging from the sun. Is that what you're asking?
And just wondering, is there a shortage of skilled labour around in this sort of area? Is it?
Yeah, I'd say so. We've always found it hard to get people, and because there's I guess the thing in the home automation or smart home and commercial automation in general, there's a lot of different skills that end up being involved across the board. So that's one of the reasons that we tried to set up a bit of it's actually a license agreement, but it's like a franchise sort of thing, so that people can share their knowledge across the we're required. So our central team gets involved in all of the what we call the bespoke projects, the really high-end ones, and provides that design, and then we train the branches to do the solutions and fully, and then we kind of work together on those sort of custom projects.
So these are all franchises, Nelson, Manawatu?
Actually, so all of the Auckland ones we own, and we've Smartlife Limited's 50% in Whangarei and Tauranga, and Nelson and Manawatu are kind of like a franchise, if you like. They're owned by an owner. Yep. And I just brought up an image of the app. Is that actually showing on the screen? Yep. So just to give you a bit of an idea, really, where should we go? So if we go into the Albany showroom here, so I've got the guest view or the homeowner's view coming here. The modes, good morning, good night, lights on, lights off, that kind of functionality. We put the volume control there, that'll control the volume in any of the rooms. For the alarm, we've got a better UI for that now, but that's just telling us that it's whether it's activated or not, and if it does go off, you can see what zone went off and why. Digital door lock, so being able to unlock and unlock the door easily. Within the cameras, it's quite good with the camera feature. Not only do you get the real-time view, but you have control buttons. So that way, if it's a garage camera, you can be controlling the garage door, turn the lights on or off, and controlling fully so that you can be seeing what's happening as well as controlling that type of thing. The lights going off. So cameras, heat pumps, that's a ducted system, and very similar. The nice thing is it's abstract, so the end user, it doesn't matter if it's a little high wall pump or a fully ducted system, it's still easy to use. And all your lights, dim them or on off. And of course, a lot of that gets done from motion in the room or light switch. And then you have each room. So if I go into the lounge, got the lights, push that button, and that's automatically turned on the TV, put it on the right input, turn on the amplifier, and that's a little movie room with a nice familiar Sky remote. Pushing that one switches it to the Apple TV, so it makes it nice and easy to use. And control the curtains and blinds. And yeah, so each room has its own similar set of functionality, just all of the available items in that room. So if there's a blind in the bedroom that we can use to blinds up, blinds stop, blinds down, dim lights. Yeah, so it ends up being quite easy to use. And in terms of configuring it all, that can be done by the homeowner or an on-site technician to do something like just enroll a light, through to a advanced technician to create something more complicated. So you can have a technician that's bringing in a new device. Someone might add it to a user view, and it's very, very easy to add items or information about the property. All the logic can be created and edited really easy. So if I say the word good morning, or we unset the alarm, then we run certain functions to turn lights on, open blinds, that kind of stuff. So quite easy and quick to program. So as we talked about the labour there, using the RTI system, which we still use for the bigger projects, configuring a very comprehensive showroom there might take 3 days, 3 to 5 days. That can be $3,000 to $5,000 of labour. Doing it with our hub only could maybe take just a number of hours, but deploying it as a template can just take much shorter time again. So being able to template things and deploy them is a real cost saving, and allows us to deploy at scale. Hey. Any other questions? Any comments? So we I appreciate you dropping in, and hope that was useful information, and enjoy the rest of Tech Week. Thanks for coming on. I'll just stay on the line if there's any other questions that someone wants to pop up. Awesome. There's a whole lot of chats. Did you get the... You've been doing that? So we can stop it, end it.